Welcome back to another episode of the Balanced Boss Mom podcast. I'm your host, Erika, and today's topic that we're going to talk about is all things with motherhood, business, healing, and real life conversations. So, if you're listening to this conversation right now, the Chicago Bears are playing right now, so I'm a little tense right now, so bear with me. But we're going to have a great conversation. We are wanting the Bears to win. So, if you hear this conversation tonight, we're praying for the Bears to win. All right. So we're going to talk about cycle confidence, body literacy, and reconnecting with our body in a way we feel more connected and aligned with, which alignment is a word for my year for 2026. So that is pretty cool. If you guys are having difficulty with this conversation, because there is going to be a little bit tough conversations in this episode, I would love for you to stop, take a pause, take a break on tonight's episode. And just know that if this is too much, it is okay to pause, rewind whenever you feel like it. So I'm just letting you guys know as a trigger warning that there is a little bit of a rough conversation for this evening's conversation. Now, after we got past this trigger warning here, without further ado, I am so excited for Emma to join this conversation. She's a certified fertility awareness educator, and it's a certified, is it Sympro?
Symptopro.
Symptopro. Thank you for correcting me. I just want to make sure I have it correct. So Symptopro instructor and a miscarriage doula. So that's why I said in this trigger warning, it's going to be tough conversations. I am so grateful for Emma for you being here this evening. I'm ready to dive in and get ready for this conversation. So without further ado, welcome Emma to the conversation and to the podcast.
I'm so glad to be here and to chat with you and talk about all the things.
Me too. I am like on pins and needles because I'm like telling my spouse, like, hey, give me the play-by-play. But it's okay because we're talking about all things girls. So I'm excited to dive into this where we talk about like cycle education. We talk about birth control, transitions, postpartum changes, fertilities, all the things that I have been wanting to kind of transition to into this this year for this podcast. So before we dive in, I would love for you to introduce yourself in your own words, who you are, where you're from, and what season of life are you currently in at?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for having me here. My name's Emma. Like you had mentioned, I'm a certified fertility awareness instructor or educator, which means I teach people how to track their cycles for family planning, meaning avoiding or trying to conceive.
Okay.
And so that's like super nutshell of that part, but who I am just as a human being. I am a wife. I'm a mom of two awesome kiddos who are 6 and 4. We live in the Charleston, South Carolina area, though I grew up in Connecticut and went to college in Vermont. So I've been an East Coast person my whole life. But yeah, so I really am just passionate about helping people know about their bodies in a way that is easy to understand and like just having all the information out there. And so that means like for now in the current season that I'm at of like helping other parents also teach their kids about their bodies in a healthy and good way. And so, yeah, that's a teeny tiny bit about who I am. I'm one of 5 kids. My husband's a flight attendant. So we travel a lot and do a lot of really cool things.
Now that is pretty cool that your husband is a flight attendant. So that is like a fun fact, everybody. If nobody
It
knows,
is a good fun fact.
that is so cool. So that means you get to travel wherever you want to go. So that's cool on that note.
We do.
And so what led you to becoming like a doula, or I'm trying to get the word right for the fertility awareness?
An educator. I'm calling myself. So I host a podcast called the Cyclical Doula Podcast, and my like business name I'm going under the Cyclical Doula. And so that meaning like I think many of us know the phrase doula as like a support person, and I know that for a lot of people that's like a comforting word and not the same for other people, but I do love the idea of being support and having cyclical being like in this nature of our of reproductive lives that women
Mhm.
have this cyclical rhythm. And so that I'm that doula for their reproductive system and for that time that they're supported through that. And so, but I got into this because of my own lack of knowledge of how cycles worked,
Mhm.
and just wanting to understand how they worked better.
Mhm.
I had this general understanding. Another word for all of this like fertility awareness based methods is natural family planning. And so some people who
Okay.
come from Christian or Catholic backgrounds have heard that term before. Sometimes it's thrown around a
Mhm.
little bit more. And so I had this knowledge base of like, okay, like we can track your cycle for family planning.
Mhm.
And so during college, I kind of dabbled in trying to think about doing like learning it. But it was really inaccessible at the time. And so
Okay.
um, that I could find. And so I was like, okay, like this is something that I want to do. So part of it just sparked the idea of like, once I learned how to track a cycle, specifically for me for avoiding pregnancy, I was like, this is just something that every woman needs to know about how their body works so that they
Mhm.
have this knowledge base, whether or not whatever forms of family planning they use at any point in their life, they should have an understanding of how their bodies work. And so that's really where my like drive came from.
I love that because not only I don't know if you heard of the episode with Dr. E that I had previously before on my podcast. She mentioned about seeing a doula. And for me, I was like, well, what is a doula? Because I was like, I didn't know what I knew. What I
Yeah.
know, what I'm trying to say is what I knew now versus what I known back then is I really wish that I took more time. I know pregnancy goes super fast.
Hmm.
So I wish I had more time understanding the difference between an OBGYN and the difference between having a doula being seen, which for
Hmm.
me, I ended up, if you heard the story where I was just going through a lot, my doctor didn't show up, had a fourth degree tear. And I wish I would have had a little bit more support in that range where you knew this is a first time mom. You shouldn't have let her make the first decision about how to have a baby or push out a baby, because if I would have known that I could see a doula and had multiple ultrasounds with a doula, or even just making sure that I didn't tear as bad as I did, I probably
Hmm.
would have been like, okay, I'm going to go with the doula and see if my insurance covers with that. Um, Now, what is the heart? Like, I know we have so many hats. Like you said, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a friend, you're a daughter. What is the heart, like the foundation of your business?
Mhm. That's such a good question. I think a huge part of it is just feeling like I'm educating and empowering other women to feel like they have the control to advocate for themselves in regards to their reproductive systems. Because I think so many of us, without really any fault to us, like the way our education system is right now,
Mm-hmm.
um, in regards to, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but in regards to the health knowledge specifically, like that we're in health class, like teachers are just given like handouts to teach about the reproductive system or things like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
not really trained fully. And so I just really am coming from a place of educating and empowering women to feel like they know that they can advocate for themselves really well in regards to their reproductive health because they know what's going on and therefore like don't need to feel shame about what's happening and can feel really strong in their relationship with intimacy and feel really confident in their family planning choices and all of those things.
I like that. I like that how that's like a foundation in the heart of your business, because I know we're about to get and dive into about what is cycle confidence, because I've never heard the term of cycle confidence. So if I haven't heard of, I'm sure my listeners haven't heard what that is. And then also, why do you think so many women feel disconnected from or feel lack confident in their cycles?
Yeah. So I think it's I think when we're talking about this, I think a good portion of it is just we just don't know, right? Most of us don't know how our menstrual cycles work on the like nitty-gritty details of how the hormone levels work and how our body is responding to those hormones and what is normal and what's just like typical that a lot of women experience and where should we be getting support through all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
a really helpful thing to know when we're talking about cycle confidence is just like women being able to feel like they know which part of the cycle they're in because they're able to
Mm-hmm.
track it. And so in within a cycle, we have a bleed and our body is hopefully going to ovulate, and that is the key part of every cycle, is that you're ovulating, which doesn't happen for every people, every woman, like every 28 days, like we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of assumed happens. There's can be a lot of variety in that, and especially for those people who have what they think are irregular cycles, like they're not necessarily ovulating all of the time, and so that's really helpful knowledge to know.
Mm-hmm.
So our body produces estrogen and progesterone, which is the two main hormones that happen in
Mm-hmm.
a menstrual cycle. There are tons of other ones that influence that, but those are the two that I like to talk about the most when we're first getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And estrogen you can see estrogen changing by cervical mucus that's produced by the body. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're able to see the there's like changes in discharge throughout a cycle. And then also our basal body temperature, which is our temperature at rest. So you can take your temperature each morning waking up.
Mm-hmm.
It after ovulation, it gets about like half a degree Fahrenheit higher and stays higher for this. Yeah.
I have a question about that. Is
Yeah.
that where your body, like, let's say, for instance, your sleep,
Hmm.
'cause this happens to me. I don't know if it
Yeah.
happens to anybody else, but take me for example. Is it where your body gets like super hot throughout the night
That's
and
such a good
then in
question.
the morning you're like sweating? Because for me, like I'll sleep, like, and sometimes I won't go to sleep. Sometimes I'll get into like a really good sleep. And like,
Hmm.
for example, I got into a really good sleep last night, but some nights I end up sweating.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm like,
that's,
what is happening? And I was like, this is not me. I don't do the whole
yeah.
sweat thing. So, and
Yeah.
then I'm waking up drenched, like, did I have a night sweat or something in my dream or something? Like, am I
Hmm.
fighting somebody in my dream? So I'm trying to figure out what the.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's so many different things that could be influenced by people experiencing night sweats, but I'll tell you what is supposed to happen, and then we could talk about you more specifically if you'd like. But
Okay.
so typically what looks like our basal body temperature, our resting temperature, is actually going
Mhm.
to be lower than what our temperature is during the day.
Okay.
So it's our temperatures kind of like dip down in the early morning hours. They're going to dip down
Mhm.
and kind of be at this lowest point that they can be. It's our body at rest and what that temperature is. And that gives us the like most accurate, only influenced by fertility by progesterone data point. Versus like if you're taking your temperature in the middle of the day, but you were out for a walk
Mhm.
in the middle of the summer, at 2 o'clock, and then the next day you were in an air conditioning room at 2 o'clock and you tried to
Mhm.
take your temperature, like your body's gonna be influenced that by that. So
Okay.
the reason that we're doing that is taking our temperatures. When people experience night sweats, it can be all sorts of different things. Usually it's an imbalance of hormones or some other medical issue. And so for a lot of people, like a lot of women postpartum, that as their hormone levels just like go crashing in all
Mhm.
different ways,
Mhm.
that can be a huge piece for a lot of people, that comes as a surprise. A lot of women who are in menopause also experience that. So I don't know like your specific details of everything that's gone on,
Mhm.
but like those can be influenced by
Mhm.
that. So those dips and swings of hormones that take place that are
Mhm.
drastically different versus just our typical cycle can
Mhm.
influence a lot of that as well.
Okay. So I've noticed that it could be because some I've been saying it like kind of feeling like it's an imbalance kind of feeling
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that cycles for me are not really too overwhelming. so to speak. I think once I
Yeah.
had my daughter, that's when my cycles, I noticed it changed. It changed from
Hmm.
going a little, it was going from some days I have it for like 4, other days it would just go a little longer. I'm like, this is kind of weird, but I'm like, I think it has something to do with the fourth degree tear, honestly, me, because
Hmm.
um it goes into the fact of like how we're about to talk about transitioning into like birth control. And
Yeah.
so for me, I was taking birth control um and found out I was pregnant the second time for my second
Hmm.
pregnancy, and I was on birth control. So I was like, okay, that's weird. I got pregnant, but I'm on birth
Yep.
control and this is really weird. So you have supported so many women through all these transitions, like with cycles and birth control transitions and postpartum. What do you think this life stage often leaves women feeling confused or unsupported in with like fertility and their birth control and postpartum?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're so quick to um our medical system is so quick to prescribe hormonal birth control in reproductive life without asking a lot of questions. And again, like I don't me as a person, like I think there's an important place for hormonal birth control in a lot
Mhm.
of situations, so I don't want to discount that.
Mhm.
And also I think that there's this knowledge base missing of, we feel like we're kind of like pushed into a corner of you can't understand your body really well, and that we don't have the tools as individuals to understand our bodies well, to know when we can be fertile and when we can't. So after ovulation takes place
Mhm.
in a cycle, you can't get pregnant for the rest of the cycle. And so people can use that for family planning. And so I think when we're in these big transitions, a lot of times it just feels so uncertain of knowing what's coming next. And
Mhm.
that's literally like the worst feeling, right? Like when we
It
when we have to let go of control just as individuals, that is so tough, and that's a learned thing of letting go of control. And
is.
so being able to sit in our knowledge of like, okay, like I know my body well, I know where I'm at today, and
Mhm.
that feels good and safe for
Safe.
today.
Yeah.
Like that is really helpful. And so like that's where a lot of times I come in, is just like, okay, like what you're describing and what you're seeing with your cycle, like that's reflecting what the typical hormone pattern is doing. Or it's not, but we know
How to fix
based on
it.
X, Y, and Z that like that's okay for this season of life. For example, postpartum or coming off of hormonal birth control, there's sometimes this elongated period before our cycles return,
Mhm.
and that's
That's
normal,
normal?
that's
Okay.
typical. Yeah, like
Okay.
especially postpartum, but coming off of hormonal birth control, a lot of times, because ovulation has been shut down with hormonal birth control, it takes some time for our body to refigure out what to do. And so that's okay. And I
Mhm.
think like being able to hear like, yeah, like this is a normal part of this process, and here's some other things for us to look out for in
Mhm.
this time frame. But that, I think just that reassurance of like, it's
Feeling
okay, we're gonna
supported
sit in
and
this
feeling
safe
it's okay
space.
that
Yeah.
this is sometimes your cycle can happen during postpartum, sometimes it won't
Yeah.
happen during postpartum. And so like
Exactly.
with me, I'm kind of nervous because I'm like, what do I need to expect for postpartum? Because like
Hmm.
I'm only 35. I'll be 36 in March.
Hmm.
So for me, it's the situation I've been having, so to speak, is the reoccurring miscarriages is what's been
Right.
happening for me. So 1 minute in my head, I'm like, okay, I want to have another kid. The next minute, I'm kind of like, okay, my kid has gone rogue, and I don't want to
Yeah.
have another one. And so, um, we're still on the topic of birth control because I still have so many unfound questions
Yeah.
I'm going to ask. Like with birth control, I know there's many different versions of them, and I want to bring
Right.
them to light. And I don't want women to feel like they have to be obligated to just take one specific birth control, because I had a doctor tell me that he wasn't going to put me on birth control and that he was just going to put the IUD in me. And I said, I don't feel comfortable with the IUD.
Right.
What other methods, I know besides condoms, and they got female condoms, but what other birth controls would be safe for a woman?
Ooh, that's such a good question. So I think the important thing to know is that there's so many different things out there, and what's safe for somebody is not necessarily safe for another person.
Mm-hmm.
And that can mean like reactions, side effects to medication that they're taking,
Mm-hmm.
or like you said, like you're just like you're not comfortable with an IUD, and like that
Mm-hmm.
means that therefore it's not safe for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I teach these fertility awareness based methods as a form of
Mm-hmm.
avoiding pregnancy, as a form of birth control, but they're not right for everybody either. And I like do want to make that clear that like
Mm-hmm.
it does put in effort, it does take time. So typically we see people taking different forms of the pill. So there's pills that have estradiol and or progestin in it, which are estrogen and progesterone synthetic combinations of that.
Mm-hmm.
And those, again, most of these hormonal birth controls are going to shut down ovulation. That's their main goal
Mm-hmm.
of like their mode of action of what's taking place, so that there's basically no possibility of pregnancy. Obviously, there's people who have
Yeah.
gotten pregnant on all of them. So sometimes that does happen. It's not 100% effective. So condoms are an option, IUDs. There's other things like the Depo-Provera shot, which I have personal opinions about, but and like Nexplanon, which is like the thing in your arm.
Yeah,
Those are
it's been so
all
many
options.
that have been recommended to me, but I was just like,
Hmm.
the IUD got recommended to me. I was like, I have some people that are in my
Yeah,
life that have had some major issues with that, and I
right.
just don't feel comfortable. And I was like, I really
Yeah,
prefer being on the pill. Like,
yeah,
I know there's has to be a
absolutely.
different type of pill that I can be on. And the
Right.
doctor told me, still was like, no, you need to stop.
Yeah, so
And I don't. And another thing
hmm,
is, I don't want in our conversation, I want people to feel supported where they
right.
can advocate for themselves versus as a doctor just telling you like you can't do this and you can't,
Yes.
which is very frustrating to
Hmm.
everyone. And all women are different,
Yeah,
like I said.
absolutely. Yeah, so I think like the biggest thing is if everybody should have a conversation with a medical professional that they're able to trust, and I like advocate for that for 100%. And also I know that it's hard to advocate when it seems like they're not listening well, so I
Mhm.
think I want to acknowledge that. But if you're looking for something that's not hormonal, that you have control over what's going in and on your body, like all of that stuff,
Mhm.
that's where a fertility awareness based method could really come in handy,
Mhm.
because you're able to see what's happening daily with your fertility and being able to use that to put it in your own hands of like, okay, like we either will use another form of birth control during the fertile window, like a condom, or we'll abstain during that time or use other forms of intimacy during that time. And then after we know ovulation has taken place, like you can have intercourse at any point of the cycle and not worry about getting pregnant. And so I think it just depends on people's comfort levels about what feels good for them. Because like you
Mhm.
said, like everybody's different, everybody's going to need to know. But having that knowledge base of like, these are all of the options out there
Um,
and they're just as effective. Like a fertility awareness based method is going to be just as effective as some of these other hormonal birth control options out there.
And I'm glad that we're touching based on this, on having this conversation, because, like I said, it's been a great conversation to have because I've been waiting to have this conversation, especially with
Yeah.
the whole the miscarriage, because I know you're a miscarriage doula, and I was like,
Hmm.
read your story, I was like, I have to have her on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've had, and just sharing, and I've had reoccurring miscarriages, um,
Right.
and so I want to be able to create a space for women that are right now, if you are having infertility or if you're dealing with a miscarriage, that it's okay to go through this season being um, in the feelings, into the thick of
Yeah.
it. And it's unfortunately, I know it's unfair to have this, placed on them and everything. And
Hmm.
what um what does it mean to hold a space for women like what we're having in our conversation today that are dealing with miscarriage or infertility?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really just meeting people where they're at. a lot of times when I work with women, regardless of any type of space that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
it comes with a lot of like we just as women too, like come with a lot of extra thoughts and a lot of anxiety around our family planning in general. And I think being able to just hold that space and
Mm-hmm.
listen well, and also um, know based on how people are asking questions or just sharing, if they just want to hear, like have somebody listen well, or if or if they want answers, or if they want support, or all of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
being able to come from a place of like, I have this knowledge base that I can share if they're ready today to listen
Mm-hmm.
to other things that they could or might want or need. But also know that sometimes it's just a space of listening and being there as just another person who can sympathize and
That's with
empathize with
it.
the situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like with every recurring miscarriage that I have had, I have felt like the doctors come in, they look at you, they'll be like, okay, you know you're having a miscarriage. Okay, you're done. Goodbye. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's very not empathetic in a way where
Yeah.
one miscarriage I had, the doctor put blood on the wall. Literally, my own blood, like checked
Yeah.
me right before I was supposed to get discharged. Um, and had the clamp in his hand, had the literally just had my blood in his hands and was put his hand on the wall. And I was like, dear God, like, why
Hmm.
I'm going through this and then I have to see it, it's just not cool.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you're listening to this again, please take a pause break because I have suffered um recurring, and it's been very hard to suffer through a recurring miscarriage. Um,
Hmm.
we'll get into another secret that I have that I'll tell you about later. But um yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult time here in Texas where pregnant women are getting turned away for just having the ounce of a cramp, or
Hmm.
some women are really scared to go to the hospital to be documented because they're scared of getting arrested because they had a
For
miscarriage,
sure.
which
Absolutely.
is not fair. It's not fair at
No,
all.
not at all.
I really
Yeah.
strongly believe that if you are going through something medically, whether you're pregnant or having a miscarriage, one miscarriage should be covered fully with insurance, without a
For sure.
I had a bill one day with a recurring miscarriage. It was like 12K.
Hmm.
And
Sucks.
I was like 12K for a
Yeah.
miscarriage. Like this is insane. Like what is the break?
Hmm.
So I want to advocate for women to also check on your insurance and check on your medical, especially if you have a huge bill, um, whether it's 1,000, 12K, please advocate for yourself because sometimes
Oh, for sure.
insurance is not what you think it is. And it
Hmm.
brings to a point where I was watching also another podcast. Shout out to this podcast, which is the Unplanned podcast.
Hmm.
His mom, she recently had a miscarriage. Um, and she delivered the baby. The baby was a
Yeah.
stillborn.
Yep.
Do you not know her bill was 32K?
I know. It's horrible. I
Horrible
think what.
industry that's doing this. Like, I really
Hmm.
believe if you are a United States Congress or whatever you can do, if you're in the legislation or if you're a medical professional, one, I really recommend please start supporting African Americans for one. Number two,
Hmm.
please start trying to figure out how we can get miscarriages covered for two. And
Yeah.
three, stop making miscarriages or infertility or birth control misunderstood. Because, like I said,
Hmm.
when one person is doing something, another person may not be going through that same thing. People don't know
Hmm.
about ectopic pregnancies
Yeah.
and how it's out of your tubes, and you might have to potentially have surgery or take a medication, and that medication is not covered. Keep advocating for yourself, especially I'm so big on advocating for, and I'm not saying this in the wrongest way, but I advocate for African Americans because the
Hmm.
thing is if I went through a 4th-degree tear, and let's say, for example, my best friend goes through a 4th-degree tear. At least I know what to do to say, hey, this is all that you need for a 4th-degree tear, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
rough that
Absolutely.
we have to be put last in the medical field to where
Yeah.
to the point where we're dying. There's no reason for
Which is horrible.
exactly, horrible. There's no reason for 2 African Americans in the state of Texas, Dallas alone. One was in labor in a wheelchair. The second one got pushed out of the hospital and told to go get in her truck to go to another hospital. If you're a hospital and it's emergency services, like they say they are, you're an ER, take the patient.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't matter.
Absolutely.
What happened to me when I was pregnant with my daughter, went to a hospital in Plano. They told me no, they couldn't take me.
Yeah.
Actually, wait a minute. Let me take that back. They took my blood, turned me away after they took my blood and told me
Mm.
because my hospital was in Irving that I couldn't be seen in Plano.
It's ridiculous. It's
insane.
really frustrating when the systems that are in place are detrimental to the well-being of humans. I like that grinds my gears beyond belief. And I know that I live in privilege because I'm white and like therefore I get care differently. And that's like that sucks. That's the case.
And
And I
it's scary. It's really scary.
it is.
Like I
It
said,
is.
for example, the doctor that I went to go see, where he kept calling me kiddo. This was
Yeah, that's
this
ridiculous.
which pregnancy was this? So this was my 3rd pregnancy that I had,
Yeah.
and he kept saying, hey kiddo," and I was in the hallway bleeding, mind you, just bleeding, and I'm
Mhm.
cramping, and I'm like, hey, can you come, come see me? Once again, gets all the way to the discharge time and was like, okay, we know you're having a miscarriage. The baby's not there. We want you to get seen the next day. I said, okay, cool, fine. I'll get seen the next day. And then to tell me you're not going to do an ultrasound. The nurse practitioner said, if you keep having pregnancies, you're going to die, which
Mhm.
made me cry, by the way.
Well, yeah, I
Made
mean,
me,
that's like not the way to say that if it was even a
yeah,
possibility
like
of like
literally,
health wise
health
critical. Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
At first I froze because I was just kind of like, what did you just say to me?
Yeah.
And then I
It's
walked out of
horrible.
there. Mind you, they were like, okay, you have to do the IUD because you're gonna keep getting pregnant and you're gonna miscarry. And I was like, but I don't want this. So what I did
Mhm.
is I cried, signed the form, walked out, and I was like, I'm never coming back here again.
Right, because you didn't get the care that you needed.
And
Yeah.
I felt blindsided because I was like, well, what I
Yeah.
came for was an ultrasound to make sure if I needed a DNC to make sure everything was out. But
Right.
if you're telling me everything's out, then everything's out, you know?
Right.
And so
Right.
that's the type of care that I'm talking about where that medical bias comes into play, where
Hmm.
you shouldn't have to keep advocating for yourself. You're a woman regardless at the end of
Right.
the day. Do I believe that men should take care of a woman, like see them physically and all that? I'm a little touchy on that. Probably not. I'd rather have a woman go down in my hoo ha. But, if you're a man and you understand very well, like I had another male doctor, he was very nice, very respectful, and
Hmm.
he showed me step by step what's happening in these stages. And I was like, okay, cool,
Right.
great. I was like, I would love for you to be my OB because you're
Yeah. Right.
awesome,
Right. Right.
know?
Yeah.
And you rarely pick and find those. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, he wasn't in my network. So I was like,
Bummer.
another topic for another day with why insurance costs so much money. But
Yes, for sure.
like I said, I'm so grateful for you having this conversation with me and
Yeah.
try not to cry because miscarriages have been really, like I said, really big with me. And it's very
Right.
touching. Now, let's go into our lighter note because
Sounds good.
miscarriages are rough and we want to talk about the mental load of motherhood. So,
Yeah.
like I said, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're all the hats. And you get to
I
travel,
am.
which I am jealous of. Okay, I want to know where you've been traveling to. But we often speak to the mother load like, what's the word? We're millennials. So we're
Yeah.
dealing with the era of pretty much everything that's happening after. We're dealing with the rough times,
Hmm.
before everyone else.
Hmm.
So how do you see cycle awareness supporting not emotional irregulations, but emotional regulations, boundaries, and
Yeah,
self-trust?
absolutely. So I think this is like where I like really grew as a human being. So I like as a very early on in pregnancy with my first, I have a 6 year old and a 4 year old. And so my when I was pregnant with my first, I was like, okay, I like kind of am getting into like all of these things that you can do to like just like be the best parent that you can be. And I really learned a lot about emotional intelligence in that time. And at the same time, I was learning more about just like my body in itself and about obviously, like as you're pregnant, like you learn about all sorts of different things.
Mhm.
And so I feel like I got this really cool knowledge of being able to see that emotional regulation and being able to have this knowledge base of what was happening in my cycle during each part of the cycle. And so obviously like after I gave birth and my cycle came back. Um but I there's this profound ability to be able to be like, okay, like I am in the part of my cycle where like around ovulation where like I'm gonna be more like flirty, more creative, more like
Mhm.
all of these things, and be able to use that to my advantage of work things that I'm doing or connecting with my husband or being more outgoing and getting together with friends, because really most of the time I'd rather be eating a cookie on the couch by
Yes.
myself watching a movie. um but also then knowing like, okay, like in my luteal phase after ovulation right before my period, like scheduling in time to just be like, I'm just going to give myself grace that like
Mhm.
I parented all day, I was working, I was doing all of the things, my husband's gone on a work trip, I am literally just going to go to sleep because that's what my body needs.
You need that. You need to, like,
Right,
I've
exactly.
been saying this all the time on every episode. I've been saying is your cup is not really technically full as a parent. It's just never going to be full at this point. What
Yep.
you were back before you were a parent, yes, your cup was completely full. But
Yeah.
now that you're a parent, like I said, for example, I tell my spouse all the time, "Hey, my cup is like 25. I need you to help me get this going because I maybe
Yeah.
need a Sprite or a Pepsi before my day started just to get me going." And then
Hmm.
at 50, he does it with me. He'll be like, "Babe, I
Yeah.
can't do it this morning. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Can you get it
Absolutely.
ready?" And we kind of split that in half. I
Yeah.
wonder, the question I have is how do you balance that with your husband going on the work trip?
Hmm.
For instance, he's going to Chicago because Chicago Bears is trying to win tonight,
Right,
right?
right, right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
if he's going to Chicago and you're at home, how do you balance all of that?
I think the better way to phrase it is it's not balanced. It's just what we give
Mm,
and we take in the season of like what works best. I am extremely lucky to have a husband who is like I'll brag on him. He's an amazing cook. He's the cook in our family. He like is the perfect quote like house husband, housewife, right? Like he like does all the things. He's one of six kids. Like he grew up around five girls. Like he does all the
he
things,
does
right?
it all. He does it all.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So
Super Dad.
I do want to like have that caveat, but I think a lot of it is just being aware of the fact of like, okay, like if he's gone for his 6 day stretch and
Mhm,
I also have meetings back to back and doing other work and the kids have activities and all of this stuff,
mhm,
in those 6 day stretch, like we are surviving. Like we are not thriving. Our house is like not getting extra clean. And when we have time afterwards, like then we'll scrub the bathrooms really deeply.
mhm.
And knowing that like that's okay. We're okay with that as a
Mm,
family. And knowing that like sometimes what comes out across from the from screens and from to friends and to family is
Mhm.
not always exactly what's happening on the like nitty gritty side of this of on
No,
this side of the
and
camera.
that's the
And I
best
think
part
that's
for
helpful
sure.
to hear. Like, it's just like, yeah, there's days that there's multiple piles of dishes in the sink because I don't have the energy to unload the dishwasher and re-put the dishes in, right? Like,
And
and my sleep's more important, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I've gotten to the point that I'm like, I know where my boundary is and and then I'll like rage clean after that, right? Like it's a little bit of both.
I like the rage cleaning because
Yeah.
for myself, this today, I told my daughter, I said, look, we need to clean your room. It's cleaning time.
Hmm.
Today's cleaning day. She was like, oh man. I was like, oh man, nothing. We're about to clean out the closet. We're doing a little spring cleaning a little bit here and
Yep.
there because spring
Yep.
around.
Yep.
We're getting it out. And so my spouse was like, you're doing a great job. He's like, good job doing this. I was like, you're supposed to be getting up doing this. But I was like, I'll do the deep cleaning. And so I want to know really quickly because I'm very intrigued by this. So not only we discussed about cycle awareness, we talked about the boundaries, we talked about miscarriages, and we talked about a little bit about mental load. But what are some of the, I don't want to say essentials, I guess, beginning essentials, I want to say, for parents that are maybe taking their daughter for the first time, getting the first time for their daughter getting a cycle, or
Hmm.
um, I've been very intrigued about pads lately because I've been seeing around
Yeah.
how pads have the pesticides in them and stuff like that. So
It's crazy.
which is insane, which I've been
Yes.
really shout out to Honey Pot because I really love Honey Pot
Yeah,
because they're organic and
absolutely.
stuff.
Yep.
I really, really wish that they can do like the bigger versions of the pad, like the big ones, like
Hmm.
the underwear.
Hmm.
But I like the organic. So, what are some essentials that you would recommend to women out there, no matter if they're 10 little ladies
Yep.
or they're in their 60s?
Yeah. So I think the biggest part when we're talking about bleeding specifically and
Mhm.
menses is that there's a lot of options of period products out there. And you can use pads, you can use tampons. Yes, I 100% agree. If you have the resources to get organic ones, do that. It's better for
Okay.
your body.
Mhm.
Um, and also there's things like period underwear or reusable pads, which seem for a lot of people like to the degree of like not being able to do it. But if you have access to a washing machine on the regular
Mhm.
basis, and being able to just rinse them out and throw them in the washing machine is really not that hard. But I know that for some people that's disgusting, and that's fine.
Can't do it.
Uh, yeah.
Me, number one. Can't do it.
There's
Tried it.
also, yeah,
Can't do it.
menstrual discs and menstrual cups. A
Mhm.
cup has more suction in it. So if you do have an IUD, those are not recommended, but a disc just kind of sits in in your vaginal canal in like right tucked up against your pelvis.
Mhm.
And those are all options. I think that's everything that I mentioned.
Mhm.
But the point being, like, there's a lot of different ththings, and what works for some person, a specific product, is not going to work for other people. And so, knowing your anatomy is going to be really helpful. So, if you're thinking like, "Ooh, like a cup or a disc sounds like a really cool idea,"
Mhm.
being able to like know what your anatomy is like, to know where your cervix sits in your body, so you know what size to get, can be really helpful, or else it's going to be extremely uncomfortable. And same thing with tampons. If you're using any type of internal product, you're going to want to make sure that you're using something that fits your body well.
Mhm.
And pads too, right? Like you said, like the bigger ones, that feels better for some people. Sometimes smaller ones work better for their flow or for all those things. So I think the important thing is like it's not going to be the best for one specific person, but that there all are all of these options out there. And yes, sometimes like you're gonna have to search online to find the best one for you, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of things out there, and there's a lot of products now that are geared towards teens that are going to be more for teens anatomy, right? They're going to be smaller, they're going to be skinnier or
Mhm.
whatever, like depending upon somebody's anatomy. And that's helpful because a little girl who's starting to bleed at age 11 obviously like her anatomy is so much different than a 20-year-old, 30-year-old woman who's bleeding. And so, yeah.
Been dealing with it for quite some time. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So I think having all of those resources is really great. Of just knowing that you can use all of those things. And then also, I'm a huge advocate for just trying to get rid of the stigma around bleeding and periods in general. And so
Mhm.
talking with friends about it and being able to just be like, I'm on my period. Do you have a period product? Having period products out in your home for other people to use. Those are all big things.
And I'm so glad that we're bringing these essentials more to life because, little ladies, it is okay to have a cycle. I'm going to tell
Yeah,
you right now,
it's
it's
good.
going to be rough and it's going to be tough. And you're probably going to get scared like, oh God, what is this? But it's not a bad thing. Trust me. It's just you
Yeah.
getting into your oh dear, I don't want to have that conversation with my daughter just yet. Puberty is what we're
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
before we wrap up, I have a little game that I want to play with you. And I want to shift it a little bit more lighter since we are about to wrap it up. So, my first question would be, what's one daily ritual that helps you stay grounded in your body?
It's such a good one. I am a sucker for a cup of tea. And so I
Mm.
will make a cup of tea. I have kind of strayed away because we have like this cool coffee machine that makes hot water, but I like love just turning on a like tea kettle and warming it up and not even necessarily like having a full cup of tea, but just like having
Um,
something warm feels good to me.
I like hot chocolate. I'm more of a
Mm,
caramel macchiato.
yeah.
I want to make my own, start making my own caramel
Hmm.
macchiatos
Hmm.
versus getting from Starbucks. Again, I love Starbucks. Don't say that I don't like Starbucks because I don't want nobody coming after me about Starbucks in the comments. But I like Starbucks.
Yeah.
Um, if your cycle could send you a text message each month, what would it be?
Oh, this is you sent this to me beforehand, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know," because it would be so different depending upon the time of the cycle that I'm in. Um, well, I think to bring it back just home a little bit, I think just being like living in the moment is really going to be like just like take the day, like just be in
Mhm.
the day. It would be what I have it say.
I don't know what my cycle would say. Probably Erica, go to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's say. What's something about women's bodies that you wish society celebrated more openly?
So many things. I think just the power that we have of living cyclically, that there's power in different parts of our cycle. That the idea of women having different times of their cycle and being able to have different emotional capacities with that and mothering differently in different times is something to celebrate and not something to try to diminish.
Also, I would like to add on that if you are, whether you're a single mother or a wife or any woman at all, you don't need to have or let anybody make you feel judged for what you
Mm.
do.
Oh,
Your
for sure.
decisions are your decisions purely, and if somebody does not like your decisions, they can remove themselves out the picture or just tell them
Absolutely.
you'll remove yourself from the situation because no woman should feel judged. Every woman has a
No,
right, and we need to continue to bring more women's rights to the forefront. So that's what I would
for
add to
sure.
that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. What's one thing you wish every young girl learned about her body before she reaches puberty?
Ooh, there's going to be times of our cycle that we're bleeding, and there's
Mhm.
times of our cycle that we have discharge, and those are both normal, and that it takes about 6 years for our cycles to regulate after that first period takes place. So
Mhm.
it's okay if it feels a little wonky starting off.
I like that. I'm glad we did these questions and we're going to leave on an end note. Emma, I want to thank you so much for your wisdom, your compassion, the depth of care that you are supporting every woman around. I appreciate you, especially one thing covering over the medical bias for African Americans. I appreciate you for. I appreciate you for just sharing the knowledge on a doula because, everybody now can get a doula. Okay. And I also want to leave this conversation with this before asking you where we can find your socials. This conversation feels not only educational, but deeply healing, not only for me, but affirming. Before we officially close, I have one more final question. Actually, two more final questions. What does the balanced boss life look for you right now in your work, your rhythm, your family, and your relationship with your body? That's the first question. And the second question I want to leave with is what is the word of the year for 2026 for you?
Perfect. Um, so I'm gonna actually answer the word first because it like it goes back to the valid spot. So,
Sure.
so my word of the year is simplify, and I also run an in-home daycare,
Mm-hmm.
and so I made a huge switch January 1st of this year. We're recording mid January, and
Mm-hmm.
so the I January 1st I switched from being full time with daycare to being part time. I'm working 4 days,
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like 3 full days of it instead of five.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 half days, 2 full days, and being able to spend more time with my family, we homeschool, and being able to just like feed into myself has been life changing, of that
Mm-hmm.
balance of being able to just like take time for me, and knowing that like we did it kind of with a big jump of just like, all right, we'll just make it work and figure it out, because obviously like taking that much time work off is a
Mm-hmm.
financial hit, but knowing that mental health is really important, and that balancing in this season of life is simplifying schedules and just living the way that we can, and being in our family.
I love the word simplify. I think I've been telling everybody for me, my word is alignment.
Hmm.
So I want to be able to feel like I can align in 2026 with better friendships,
Yeah.
align with the podcast a little bit more, align with what guests may fit for the podcast in itself. Um,
Hmm.
just align as a mom
Yeah,
and a friend. So that's my word for 2026. Again, I want to thank you for being on the podcast, Emma. Before we
absolutely.
go, where can we find you on your socials?
Yeah, so you can find me on almost every social as Cyclical Doula. And you can find me as the Cyclical Doula podcast, as well.
All right, guys, for everyone who is listening, again, like I stated, you can connect with Emma through her one on one coaching, her courses, and her podcast, The Cyclical Doula, which I am a part of. Yeah, okay. And all her links will be available in the show notes so you can continue to learn about her journey. Her journey. What is wrong with my words today? Her journey and the knowledge about a doula and what we've discovered on this episode. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with a friend, leave a review, help more women connect in whichever way, whether it's connecting on YouTube, connecting on TikTok mostly. Until next time, as I always state, stay grounded, stay true to yourself, take one step at a time, and again, don't let nobody make you feel judged in whatever you do. All right, Emma, it's time to wrap it up, my friend. Any encouraging words you want to say left here today?
Ooh, I just say well, thanks for having me, first of all. And um, I think just know that whoever, when you're listening to this, you are doing a good job, and you know your body better than anybody else. So if something feels off or something feels not right, advocating for yourself, you know exactly what's going on. Trust your gut. And you got this.
All right. Well, you heard her. She's the master. She's the doula. I'm not. I'm just saying. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to the Balanced Boss Mom podcast. Until next time, bye, guys.